Standardized tests are given out daily. Even at our own school, we receive multiple standardized tests a year. But at Heritage, teachers also preach the 4 C's. They try to make students think critically, collaborate with each other, communicate with their fellow students, and be creative. But how can students do any of this if they are being tested with standardized tests? These types of tests do not measure how creative a student is or how well they collaborate. The giving of standardized tests directly contradicts the 4 C's. President George W. Bush signed the No Child Left Behind Act. It required schools to administer math and reading tests every year. It also imposed harsh punishments on schools that did not make adequate yearly progress. By 2011, half of all schools were labeled failing because they did not make the adequate yearly progress. By signing this bill, President Bush ushered in a new era of standardized testing. At Heritage, standardized tests are given often. In the Heritage School Improvement Plan, it states that one goal at Heritage is for students to get higher grades on these standardized tests, like the SAT and the ACT. But, at the same time, Heritage highly encourages the 4 C's. This is an obvious contradiction. How, in good conscience, can Heritage encourage the 4 C's while expecting their students to score well on standardized tests? Standardized tests do not measure creativity or any of the 4 C's. The content of standardized tests is often trivial and not applicable in the real world. Standardized tests also destroy students' ability to be creative. By only giving students a set number of answers and only having one right answer, standardized tests dissuade students from thinking divergently. According to the National Council of Teachers of English, many graduates lack creativity and curiosity. They say that this is because standardized tests focus only on cognitive dimensions, ignoring many other important qualities like creativity. This has caused the creativity of students to decline. According to a 2011 study done by the College of William and Mary, creativity in young Americans has been declining since the early 90s. Even though Heritage encourages the 4 C's, students cannot demonstrate them because of the rigorous standardized testing. If Heritage were to give more classes that utilize the 4 C's, like dance and theater, they would be improving their students' abilities to use the 4 C's at a high level. Also, Heritage should put less emphasis on standardized testing and more emphasis on applying the 4 C's. In the future, Heritage must place more emphasis on classes that correctly utilize the 4 C's. Right now, because of standardized testing, students are struggling to precisely use the 4 C's. Here is one example of several students' struggles with the 4 C's and standardized testing.
Oh, I am so bored. Let's do something. Let's go to the factory.
I can't, bro. My parents make me study for my PACT.
What about tomorrow? Are you free tomorrow?
I gotta study for more standardized tests.
Yeah.
Man, I wish our school had the 4 C's where we could be creative and communicate with our fellow peers. And while we were at the Pottery Barn, we could also do a lot of critical thinking and collaboration.
Studying takes over our lives.
Man, that makes me so upset. Am I right, Corbin? Oh! I'm gonna call Whit. Hey, Whit, did you know that our school still promotes standardized testing even though they don't properly evaluate the 4 C's? I agree. Yeah? It's crazy. What do you think?
You're kidding me. Are you serious?
Now let me offer this as a rebuttal.
Hey, 4 C's. Hey, 4 C's. Hey, 4 C's. Hey, let me talk to him for a minute. I got a problem with Heritage. It involves the 4 C's. They are essential for life, and they are something we need. Critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. If we don't get this education, we won't provide for the nation.
You need to study for your standardized test. Don't you still use the 4 C's?
Nah.
Oh my God!
Encouraged to take classes that I do not enjoy. Why don't they teach us about taxes so we can get employed? I just don't understand the school system. I leave school lacking wisdom. School makes me feel like a victim. Had to make my own rhythm.
According to the school improvement plan, 41% of teachers at our school don't see creativity in the classroom.
Wow, man, that's crazy. Maybe because these teachers support standardized testing. Probably. It's just a matter of opinions.
Man, I want to hear someone we can interview about this.
I got somebody.
So standardized tests are one measure of student achievement. They are aligned often to the curriculum, and so you can measure how much a student learned in a given year. Standardized test results are usually curved, so getting a fine point on that is sometimes tough. But standardized tests are not a good measure of how a student thinks, how they're able to process new information and synthesize it in creative ways, and how they're able to go deeper with that information. Most studies have been done, have not been able to find any correlation between standardized tests and creative thinking, critical thinking, any of those collaborative skills or communicative skills.
Do teachers really think that standardized testing is an accurate measure of student performance?
No.
That's crazy, bro. So I guess you're trying to say that standardized testing isn't an accurate measure of a student's mastery of the 4 C's?
Well, Graham, regular classrooms don't interpret the 4 C's. You know, it's classes like dancing, and team sports, and art that do.
But how are you supposed to fit those into your schedule?
Well, the school gives it available to everyone.
Well, I think what Jackson here is trying to say is that our school often encourages students to take AP classes that are super rigorous, and students don't have the capacity to take a team sports or an arts class that express the 4 C's.
And they say they promote the 4 C's, but when they still value standardized testing in these rigorous courses, and teachers don't even think that standardized testing evaluates students' intelligence.
Well, I mean, there needs to be a solution to this. I mean, classrooms should interpret, creativity, collaboration, cooperation, and critical thinking. Like, why is this a thing?
Well, I have an idea. Let me call up Hunter.
Hey, yeah, teach me more about life rather than finding answers. Give us the freedom to select our own classes. Let's stop all the madness. Give me lessons, let me practice. Now y'all see my point, just like a cactus. Hey, 4 C's. Hey, now y'all got the 4 C's. Hey, yeah, 4 C's. Standardized testing. Now y'all got the 4 C's.